the Deff Dread tactics. So Deff Dread is another one of those units that gets a little bit slept on because he's not exactly where everybody wants him to be, but he's almost exactly where you want him to be. So keywords: walker, vehicle. Like we spoke about with the killer cans, the Deff Dread is a walker, meaning he can heroic, and he is way easier to get into heroics by himself instead of a big old unit of killer cans because he is an individual model, and he's smaller. So and he's in his own way durable enough to take the slaps from an enemy if he chooses to heroic and save something. So next is his data sheet ability is a battle shock. It's not at a -1 really, so it really doesn't feel as good as you want it to be, but it can have its circumstantially really cool outcomes. He is the master of versatility. So if you own a Deff Dread and you're choosing to bring one on your list, the best way you want to load him out or bring him is just with the understanding that he's there to offset the weaknesses in your collection and in your list as a whole. So if you really think that you need more high damage, you can bring him. If you need skirmishing units, you can bring him. If you need something for a rapid ingress, you bring him. If you need something to be a distraction, you bring him. He can really just play versatility into the game. That being said, at 120 points, he's not exactly where I want him to be. If he comes out another 10, he would become way more likely to end up on my list. So as for what does he do that makes him also a bit more of a cool dude, he's not as heavily reliant on CP as his counterparts. So we spoke about the Stampa, heavily reliant on CP. We talk about Killigans, heavily reliant on CP. The Deff Dread is not really that reliable on TP. He can take advantage of them at all times because he likes all the same strats that the Killer Cans does. But because he's an individual model and because of the loadout that he's going to use that we're going to talk about in a bit, means that sometimes he just activates and he just goes off on his own, just gets stuck in without requiring a bunch of CC support. That being said, he doesn't really always require mech support either. Are there loadouts that you can bring him and use a mech to make him more reliable? Sure. But the whole point of a Deff Dread is really for a skirmish kind of bruiser type of unit. He's meant to go out there, kind of get the game kickstarted going, try to get interactions going, try to get enemy to invest in killing him, get an overcommitment from your enemy, and then countering them punching up. So don't be scared to lose your Deff Dread. It's just about timing on when you're going to use them and where you're going to use them. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our Waaaghtaktiks dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. Speaking of where you're going to use them, he is my favorite QRF unit. Now, what do I mean by QRF? QRF is a meaning abbreviation for quick response force. So that's why I put it right along rapid ingress. So a lot of the time you're going to bring your Deff Dread because he's going to be in reserve. You're going to be looking around the battlefield. You're going to say, okay, my northern flank looks like the enemy didn't invest as much. I think I can make it up that kind of side of the field. Therefore, I'm going to bring my Deff Dread in, and I'm going to QRF, quick response force, keep pressuring that side of the field. Or, I end up repositioning poorly. My enemy ended up deep striking this unit of Terminators closer up my deployment zone that I want. I'm going to bring my QRF, rapid ingress, Deff Dread in. Sure, maybe he can't completely destroy the problematic unit, but he can delay it or threaten it to the point that the enemy doesn't get to freely just overwhelm me. So quick response force for the Deff Dread, meaning where he ends up isn't going to be like your entire game plan going into the game. Maybe like the Killer Cans, for example, where you're building it into your list so that you can actually bring them on, but your Deff Dread is going to be in position so he can kind of just show up where you need him. One thing is he is shout out to the claws. He said I spelled claw wrong. Yes, I did. Did I spell it wrong? Yeah, typo. See, I spelled it right and then I spelled it wrong. It switched on its own. Don't judge me. Then we have he has a 2+ save and he actually has access to -1 damage, which is rare for an orc. So him having a 2+ save feels fantastic. Being moderately good, not great toughness, but a moderately acceptable toughness and amount of wounds means, like I said, he feels good for heroic intervention. He feels good for skirmishing with cheap kind of chaff units. But he does fall short when you get into fights with anything that's like, somewhat killing on the game. So don't rely too much on his durability. He only has 8 wounds. Now we speak about his loadouts because that's the most important part. So as for his loadouts, we have 3 loadouts that I really want to talk about. Of course, there's a bunch that you can end up using, but the 3 main ones I like to talk about and I like to nickname. So we have 1, the skirmisher. So he is triple scorchers and a claw. I call him the skirmisher because one, he's really just meant to go out there and face all comers. He can decide I'm going to threaten an enemy vehicle because I'm going to throw random flamers at it. I decide I'm going to destroy a bunch of chaff T3 infantry because I have a bunch of flamers. I'm going to go chip away these Gravis Marines and then punch them down and hope I can keep them in combat. I'm going to charge this rhino and not kill it, but hold it in place. Whatever it may be, your skirmish Deff Dread is just all-purpose git that goes around and throws wounds into everybody he can because a bunch of flamers feels good. And then you have a leftover arm to try to get some leftover punches in once you finish doing your kind of combined arms. It also feels nice to be able to go, I'm going to advance and shoot a bunch of flamers and charge. Of course, there's a bunch of other units you can end up doing it for, but smaller games, whatever it may be, could be cool. Next is the nuke. So this is a unit that I lovingly call the nuke because this is a little bit suicidal. So you can take 4 custom mega blasters and or force rockets, depending on how much hazard you really care about. Nonetheless, you're going to end up popping reroll hits from Daka Daka, big shells for bigger gets anyways, and you're going to be just acting as a nuke and trying to delete an enemy unit. Is this a reliable thing to do? No, it simply lacks the AP to do it reliably, but there are some pretty hilarious and funny results you can get from doing the nuke. Next is the hunter, which is 4 claws or 3 claws and a scorcher. So the hunter is something you end up putting on your list if you're directly looking to hunt down problematic 3 wound units. Or a unit that maybe you want to take the damage 4 into because you can put clanking claws on there and end up putting damage 4 punches into them. This is one of the units that you're intentionally looking to hunt down an enemy problematic elite infantry that maybe your collection doesn't have a lot of options for. Maybe you're just tired of getting negated damage 1. Maybe whatever it may be, the hunter is where you come into play, especially in a smaller game where he can go around and bullying problematic elite infantry or even 4 wound models that you really just want to punch off the table. As for the Deff Dread, a little bit similar to the Killican. I'm using a different color for the Deff Dread because I feel like him. A little similar to the Killican. Deff Dread feels really good when you can actually, oops, don't look at that. Close your eyes. Okay, when you can actually get him to come down the lanes, right? Like I said, for Killicans or even the Gorkanaut, Morkanaut, when you're taking advantage of these Ingress units as an orc player, understand that the fact that you're not going to be getting as many guns into you when you're coming down these lanes is a little bit of a defensive buff to you already. If you're playing Gorkanaut, Morkanaut, whatever, Deff Dread's running into the middle, big unit of cans like this, you're getting hit from multiple angles of fire where you can end up just getting deleted. You can get fires here, angle of fire here. Somebody get an angle of fire here. Some random hobo get an angle of fire down here. Everybody will just kind of gather up on you. Instead of you coming in from Ingress down here, coming in somewhere over here, coming in over here, right? Stuff like that means less units can actually target you. So you're less likely to end up getting annihilated when you come in from Ingress, right? So that's where I like to bring my Deff Dreads in. And he stages so well in something like a little pocket like here, right? There's other layouts and stuff we can use where he can feel really good, but nonetheless, if you're playing on the other side, you can end up putting him like right here. Like I said, he ends up staging up where he can go in there. He can end up threatening this kind of deployment zone, so you can end up putting him here, and then when the enemy decides to come in, he can come around the corner. If you're playing here, you can end up kind of throwing him there, and then he can come around the corner. Spoke about the flamers, so just understand he's like a skirmisher, banter. He's easy to kind of get involved in the game if you're understanding that he's going to die after he gets involved in the game. So he's really one of my favorite Ingress units. So yeah, with that being said, we move on to last but certainly not least, my big boy, the Gargantuan Squiggoth. Whoa! So the Gargantuan Squiggoth ain't getting no love because GW hates us. GW, why'd you do that? That was so unnecessary. So if you're going to be playing the Gargantuan Squiggoth, I favor him in Warhorde. Now, will I entertain an argument for taking him in Dread Mob? Yes, but I'll finish the video on that. So we have Warhorde. The reason why you have Warhorde is simply fight on death. A lot of the time, your Gargantuan Squiggoth's going to run up in there, YOLO up into the field, sometimes get charged first and then getting punched off the table. There are stuff that can end up killing him. Yeah, he has negative codex support, exactly. And there are units that can end up killing him. So being able to fight on death so you can at least kill something with him feels really good. Giving him critical 5. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!